Hey, welcome back. I've teased you enough about the new cartridge. It's time to talk about it. This new cartridge is for PRS and will be replacing the 6-dasher for the time being. You see, the 6-dasher is a really incredible cartridge for PRS. Low recoil, very efficient, good wind bucking, and all those things. But is it the ultimate? Is it the absolute limit of what we can do in PRS? I have no idea. Instead, I have to do some experimenting to find out, and in the meantime, we're going to experiment with a new cartridge and see if it's any better or any worse. Maybe there's a trade-off here. So let's talk about the characteristics that make a really good PRS cartridge. The first is low recoil. If you get blown off a target by your recoil, you're not going to see what happened down there no matter how big the cartridge is or isn't. In other words, you have to be able to see it in order to correct off of it. So low recoil is a key component of a good PRS cartridge. The next is downrange impact. You want something that's going to throw a shovel full of dirt when you miss and leave an unmistakable mark on the target when you hit. Now, this might be a little overkill. And ATF, if you're watching, this is inert. The next thing you're looking for is a low drag bullet at a high speed. You want a very flat trajectory and you want good wind bucking capability. So you don't have to make such big wind corrections, because the smaller the wind correction is, the more give you have on either side of center, so you're likely to hit more targets. And last but not least, you need something that you can actually obtain, because all of those characteristics, when combined together into one cartridge, doesn't exist. It's not even possible. You can't be throwing a shovel full of dirt with a cartridge that doesn't make any recoil. You have to balance those two with each other. And that balance is a key component of why the 6-dasher and the 6mm series of cartridges are so popular in PRS. The recoil is low, the trajectory is relatively flat, and the wind bucking is pretty good. But I have another cartridge that I want to try because I want to get that other component a little better. You see, with the 6-dasher out here in the West, with heavy targets at long ranges in some of the field matches, it can be really hard to see where you hit, even when you hit right in the middle of the target. It doesn't leave a big enough mark on the target, and at the same time, it doesn't move the target if you hit on one edge or the other, especially with the heavy long-range targets. Closer targets aren't a problem at all, but ultimately you're going to have to hit those longer-range targets consistently in order to win anything. So balancing recoil with impact, we have to go up in caliber as well as weight. In order to do that, we're going to go up one step to the 6.5 diameter bullets, and I'm going to go to a 140 grain bullet. This is the Berger 140 grain hybrid, and this is my first choice of bullet, for a couple of reasons, and we'll get into that in just a moment after I introduce the cartridge. The cartridge is the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, you're probably wondering if I'm changing my urinal selection criteria or my hairdo, neither of which is going to occur. Instead, I have chosen a cartridge that is very popular and can reuse some components that I have around here, most importantly of which is the large rifle primers that I have in stock from my F-class shooting days. I'm not currently shooting F-class actively, and I have a stock of primers. Let's use them. Likewise, I have a pretty good stock of H4350. Now, this particular powder does work in the dasher, but not the way I would like it to. So I need something to shoot it up in, and the 6.5 Creedmoor is a really good candidate for that. Back to the bullet selection criteria. Why the 140 Berger hybrid? Well, I'm a Berger fanboy. Let's just be honest about it. I like Berger's products, and I go to them first. The 140 because it's one of the original hybrids. It's not one of the newer ones. The newer hybrids can be a little harder to tune in certain calibers, and I don't want to find out that I have a hard to tune situation. So I picked the easy button bullet with a huge, long history of successes behind it. Now, this excludes a lot of other bullets on the market that are also good performers, like the 142 from Sierra and the Hornady offerings. I'm not saying those won't shoot, I'm shooting this one. Now, if you're wondering about like the 153.5 Berger or the 144 Berger or the 156 EOL, we'll get to those later. Exotic bullets last. Let's do the easy button first, figure out how to shoot the cartridge, and then we'll go try new stuff. So I went to the 6.5 Creedmoor to get a little more impact downrange. It's also going to give me more recoil on my end, which is a negative, right? Well, not necessarily. When I start looking at the pro shooters, the ones that are really successful in this game, I see a lot of shooters that have shot the 6.5 Creedmoor and even some bigger cartridges along their journey. And each cartridge you shoot, each situation you put yourself in, gives you another opportunity to learn something new. Maybe better recoil control techniques, or better ways of doing it so that you don't suffer the consequences of recoil quite so much as someone that has started with a 6mm with almost no recoil and gets really sloppy with her position. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to the 6.5 Creedmoor for PRS for at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 barrels, and then we're going to go back to the dasher because I have a barrel for that as well. And it's going to be the same rifle I was shooting before with a barrel change and some other changes to it that are coming up soon. The next video will be my brass prep with the Lapua 6.5 Creedmoor large rifle primer brass and initial loading for fire forming. And then the events that occurred during fire forming with this cartridge, because I went and shot a match to fire form, and we'll continue on with load development, followed with some other tomfoolery as we go through the process. All right, guys, until next time, shoot straight, and I'll see you in the next video.